Hey folks, welcome to my Outlook training videos. I'm Lisa Hendrickson from Call That Girl, and we're going to get started here. But first I have some on-screen things I want to talk to you about. It's going to take the bulk of this first video, and then we'll get going into the practicing and the lab exercises to show you. A few tips about the videos here is that I'm a very fast technician, so I'm hoping that you watched my Outlook training videos for end users before this, so you can really get to know the program. Because I will go fast, and if you need to, you can stop and rewind and go back at least. But I've been doing this for many years, and I don't know of a way to go slower. So anyway, I will be free talking as well. So if I mess up, you're going to see the mess up because you're going to have the same struggles probably that I do. So I'm not going to edit out anything. I'm also not going to edit out any of my free talking because honestly, I'm not a professional video editor producer. I'm just making these videos as a technician to show you things. And so if I have it, like I said, if I have a mess up, I'm just going to mess up, and I'm just going to be honest about that. I'm also going to be giving examples of stories in the videos so you can relate to them. And I also like to say, like, yep, the client might say this and they might do that and things like that. And it's really good for you to learn from my stories. Also, please remember that there's not one way to fix Outlook. So if I'm showing you a way to do something and you know of another way, that's absolutely fine. Microsoft offers us plenty of ways to do things in Outlook, just like every other program. And what I'll try to do is start a segment, and there's 7 videos, by the way. I'll try to start a segment and then close one and move on to the next one because these can get a little confusing. And I'm going to be honest with you folks, I've already made test videos, and it can be confusing for me as a trainer to even try to explain it to you. So I might say that in a portion, like I've covered that already, but I'm saying it again because of whatever. Outlook can be very confusing, and trying to explain it can be confusing. So anyway, let's get going with the first video. Why so many people love Outlook. Now, a lot of you techs are Gmail lovers. I know you are. Or you're Thunderbird lovers or whatever, and you're not a fan of Outlook. But I can tell you that most of your clients probably do love Outlook, and here's why. Most of them come from a corporate environment. And what I've been figuring out is many years ago, they all had Outlook in their corporate environment. They started their own business. They were like, well, it's Outlook's all we know. And they like it. And the reason is because Outlook has everything you need in one pretty much, one program, one square. I call it, make it easy. Easy clicks of the button. And even though the Gmail texts are like, well, the calendar's like that in Gmail too, it's just the visual that people can't relate to. They like Outlook. They like how they're used to it. And Thunderbird and other free programs are not as robust as Outlook. And really, Outlook is fairly robust. And it can offer a lot of things that the online browsers cannot. My clients like it because they can click on the calendar, click on contacts, and it also works with third-party apps really well. You can also import, export data, and you can also have multiple email accounts in one folder list, and that's what is kind of the break from Gmail that it can't offer nicely in one program. And you can have IMAP, Exchange, POP, Outlook.com all flow within one Outlook profile. And it's pretty robust, like I said earlier, and people love it. Now we're going to talk about here is some learning lessons about Outlook. Outlook can all be done remotely. I have been doing it remotely for 3+ years, probably almost 7, because I just have not found a time I needed to go on site to fix an Outlook problem ever. So if you're thinking about this as a technician and you're used to going to people's houses, this remote might help you and save you time because a lot of the things I do take longer than an hour, but it might take 8 hours to do something. And you don't want to bill a client for being there 8 hours when you're watching data move or download or whatever. I'm also going to teach you how to manage expectations for clients. So during this video, if I say, remember to tell your client this, that's a learning tip for you to go, okay, next time I help that person, I'll remember to say this might be missing, or it's better for me to back up, or whatever. Always keep in mind that you want to bill for your time with Outlook and not for learning. Now, I know a lot of techs they feel guilty. They've told me this. Well, I spent 4 hours working on this lady's Outlook, and I got it fixed in the final hour. Do I bill for all 4 hours? I try to tell the clients, well, I'm going to bill you something worth my time, but I cannot ethically bill them for research and learning. Now, it's different if you're troubleshooting and you actually know what you're doing. That's different than learning something. So just keep that in mind. Be gentle with people on the billing, because if you're learning, to me, it's not fair to bill them for learning. I'm going to teach you also how to say no to a job when it's really outside your knowledge range. And I'll just tell you some few tips now is that I still to this day say no to a few jobs, because when I ask the clients some more detailed questions, I say, no, I can't do it. And if I think it can be done by another technician I know, like another expert, I will refer the expert over, but I will not take a job on I don't know. But let's say I want to learn that. Then I'm very appropriate with the clients, and I say, look, I want to learn what you need done, and I'm willing to put in research time, but I'm also going to bill you for some of the time, because it's never always free. And if you tell the client with that expectation, like let's say I'll bill you for an hour, even if it takes me 6 to learn it, that is fair for you and it's fair for them. And then it also gives you a little wiggle room that you might not be able to get it done. But again, that should be only if you don't have another reserve person to do it and you want to learn it. And that's how I got to be what I would call myself an expert, because I've done a lot of that in the past. And also, I never guarantee a job can be done ever. When people say, can you guarantee it'll be done in 2 hours? I say, no, I have a 2-hour minimum. If it takes me 4 hours, I'm going to bill you for 2 more hours. You got to be honest with people, right? You got to manage the expectation of that job. And since I switched to a 2-hour minimum, sometimes I'll tell a client, well, if it's done in a half hour, you get the rest with credit with me. But I always have a 2-hour minimum, because Outlook is generally over an hour for every call nowadays. And that's just how it goes. But never guarantee your work. Never. Okay, and then another learning lesson is when a client Googles for you, how to deal with it. So I will get many times a client that will show me tons of their Google researches. They'll show me something, this is before they've hired me, and they'll say, here, I found all these Google things. And I'm like, I know, but see, I know how to fix it. And I don't go to Google first when I fix things, because I know Outlook. It's kind of like a mechanic. You know, the mechanic's not going to go Google something if they know how to fix it until they get to a difficult problem, maybe with a service number or something and the engine light on, that they have to go look something up. That's how I am at my level. So if a client is trying to Google for you, you got to stop them and take control. Also, you should never be Googling on someone's computer ever. And I use the word Google, but I call it research to a client. So if I actually come across an error or something finicky, I tell the client, I need a few moments. I'm going to go research this. Research is a way to say Google professionally, but, you know, because I know how to research things better than they do, I don't do it on their computer, because the first time I did that was the last time I did that. I actually Googled something on a client's computer, and they said to me, did I hire you to Google this when I could have done that? And I said, no. I just did not know this certain thing. After that, no more. I was on my own computer. So what I do, though, is I will go research it on my computer, and if I get a link to something, I'll copy and paste it to their computer and say, look, I found this fix-it thing, or I found this is what we have to download, and that's okay then. And the trick to the Outlook stuff is knowing how to be fast and be on the clock at the same time. You're not researching if you're looking up an error code, because we don't know all the error codes. We don't know all that stuff. Another thing to be prepared for is to deal with some really huge files, okay? 2013 and 16 has gotten so much better that people can actually hoard, and I use the word hoard, it's true. They're hoarding so much email now, and they have to hoard for their work. Sometimes they have to keep email for 7 years, 10 years, whatever. It's none of our business how much email they have, and I could care less. It's you know, you need to know how to manage that amount of mail and balance it. Okay, and I'll teach you that in these videos, but it's very important that, you know, if your client has 50 gigs of data, they have 50 gigs of data, okay? And I teach them how to balance it out. I never tell them to delete anything. But again, everybody has too much mail. They've got numerous PST files, and they've got a lot of third-party apps going on. And that's just how Outlook is these days. I got one more page for more learning lessons. So just remember, if you are doing something in Outlook and you are not sure what you're doing, always back up everything. And to me, this is billable work, because for me, I take a new client in I've never worked with before. I don't know who they've used in the past. If I'm working in their calendar, no matter what, first thing I do is back it up. And if I have to, I back it up twice. Once to a PST, once to a CSV. I never trust other people. I only trust my own work. If I'm working with someone's contacts and they've got, let's say, a ton of color-coded stuff categorized, always back it up. If I'm dealing with a profile where I have to add a new profile, sometimes I'll back up the IMAP in another one just to have a backup, because it saved me in the past. And if you get a client that says, well, do I have to pay you to back all this up? Yes, you do. Because this is part of troubleshooting. This is part of what we do, is protect your data for you. You know, we're here to fix Outlook. Outlook is not perfect. So the best thing you can do is back up and charge them for it. Now, here's one thing I sometimes don't do, is if I go to back up an IMAP account and I see it's going to take a long time, I do tell the clients, I'm going to go off the clock now while it backs up, and I will be back. And the best thing you can tell them is, I'm going off the clock. Because if you don't, an hour later, they will call you and say, are you billing me for this last hour of you not doing anything? And there you go, managing the expectation again of, you set the tone. I'm not going to bill you to watch this. I'm going to go do other bench work. You know, you won't get those calls. And the clients will be happy knowing that they're not paying you for an hour of just watching data. A couple more tips is, when I'm in control of the remote support session, I'm in control. I don't like my clients taking the mouse and showing me stuff and moving the mouse all over. 2 mice on one computer can cause a lot of chaos. I've seen folders disappear. I've seen calendar appointments move around. So you can probably, if you are new to this, first thing I would just do is just tell the client, before we get started, if you want to move the mouse, just please let me know and I'll lift my hand off mine. That is a secured remote support job. Sometimes I forget to do that myself, and a client will take the mouse, and I always stop them and say, please, please, please don't ever take the mouse again. They're the fast ones that like to take the mouse. And sometimes I've had to tell people twice. They really love driving. So anyway, other things I don't really do too much is registry hacks. And I don't actually uninstall Outlook that much either. I know it's kind of common for people to think that they have to hack the registry to do something, or to uninstall Outlook. I think after I'm done showing you folks a lot of the stuff with these videos, you're going to learn how to not have to do that, because uninstalling Outlook is just not something I do often. And I don't need to wipe the computer. I never almost make new, in fact, I can't even tell you the time I made a new Windows user account. I fix everything within Outlook, and I don't have to do all those extra things. So I know most of you watching this are general Windows operating technicians, possibly. You might be doing other work too, but Windows techs, I think, are used to repairing profiles, reloading computers, and this is just not common with the work I do, so that's a tip for you to save you time. And the more confidence you get with Outlook, with watching these videos and learning, and because you're going to be in the Facebook group, here's what I try to tell folks that are just learning Outlook is, do your best until you get caught up and you don't know what to do next. Then come to the Facebook group for help. And make sure you have a list of everything you've done, so we don't have to go ask more questions. Asking questions to figure out is half the problem. So take your notes, write it down, and you are going to get stuck. Come to Facebook group and ask us for help. And finally, if you're dealing with an Office 365 software issue, and this is a big tip, and it's still not working, and you believe it's the software's fault, and if they are on subscription model, and sometimes even standalone, this works too, go ahead and chat with Microsoft and have them fix their software. I'm hired as an Outlook expert to fix the Outlook issues, not to fix the broken software. And I know a lot of you folks that do Windows tech support, you have to do the things you do, but the 2013 and 16 has become so snaggy that their technicians generally know how to fix it pretty quick. And this is a good thing for you because I try to watch them to see what they're doing, but a lot of times they use their own tools. And that's really horrible because I don't know their tools. I don't know their back ends, but I try to watch. But I have gone off the clock with clients before, and happily I'm doing other stuff watching that Microsoft tech, and I'm not billing the client for an hour and a half. But I'm learning, and the client is happy I'm not billing them. Now, I know a lot of techs out there being like, well, I should bill for every minute I'm doing that. Well, I get it. But if you're going to, have a high rate for Outlook and your hourly rate, you don't want to bill people for not doing actual work. But I have stepped in lately in the last 6 months and had Microsoft probably do 4 or 5 jobs of the repair of the software. Once it's repaired, I take it back over. I'm in charge again, and I get to do everything correctly for the client that they wanted. All right, now we're going to talk about the Outlook versions. There's many Outlook versions. There's, just to quickly bypass the old ones, Outlook 97, XP, 2000, Outlook Express. I mean, honestly, if you get calls for those, they probably are on very old systems, and I mean, I don't even get those calls anymore. Outlook Express upgrades, I still get calls for on occasion. Quick tip is to install a new Outlook version or as close to what you can, and then do the import into an Exchange, which is just an Outlook profile, get it into a local PST file, and move it to a new computer. That's simple, okay? 2003 shouldn't be around anymore, but if you still do it, do your best. Windows XP cannot run the 2013 or 16 or any Office 365. So if you're dealing with 2003, it has to be upgraded no matter what. 2007 was very old and clunky. I'm finding that the enterprise version is very challenging to uninstall if you have to. So some people, like on Windows, I think I've even seen on Windows 10, they've installed it, they have a problem, and removing it could take like an hour, the enterprise version. It's horrible. It only allowed one Exchange account, too, and now that it's getting too old, it's breaking and not reinstalling correctly. So at this point, I try to tell people it's time for an upgrade, and they don't want to upgrade. They love that 2007, and I feel so bad for them. But they have to. It's like you just have to at some point. It had a 2 gig limit, but like I said, it can overbloat with the IMAP accounts. I've seen that multiple times. PSTs can go over, but then they break. And they have very outdated IMAP settings still. Like, just not outdated, but they don't work as well. I've seen a lot of third-party apps break because of it or not work. And, like I said, it doesn't work with the new Exchange. And uninstalling Enterprise is very, very complicated. Sometimes I've had to have Microsoft, I think, go in and do that fix. 2010 is still very popular out there, and it's especially popular in managed services businesses with thousands of computers or hundreds because they bought that license. And sometimes you cannot upgrade because it's not under their license to be able to do that. So the one thing I've learned is that people have problems with it. The 20 gig limit for 2010 is still in effect. You can always go higher. It does allow it, but it breaks. So that's when you have to come in and wrangle it down and manage the balance. So if someone has a large PST file that is crashing, you have to get it down to a 10 gig PST and a 15 maybe or something. I'm finding with 2010 that people are losing speed when they have more email accounts added, and especially with the IMAP and trying to sync. It can be very scary. I've seen some big, big old Gmail accounts in there that are really huge in 2010. And for a home user or a small business user, upgrading is great because they can. And they should at that point. 2010 is just losing it. The add-ins also break with 2010 a little bit more. And, it's kind of like people have to upgrade at some point. They just have to. It's life. So it's a good upsell for you if you're troubleshooting and need to but just get some more labor time in that. And I never upsell unless it's the right thing for the person, too. But sometimes I've troubleshooted 2010 for 2 hours to say, we have to upgrade you. And once we upgrade, it works like a super fast train and the clients love it. So I've learned sometimes to offer that in the beginning, and sometimes that works. With 2010, if you're going to be upgrading it to Office 365 2016 or 13, you do have to uninstall all of it, reboot, and so hopefully that'll clear out all the old remnants of it. If not, you might have to clean it up with a like CCleaner or Glary or something to get all the registry old pieces out. 2010, I've seen it be installed with 2013 and 16, but it does not like it. It competes with opening, and it can cause you a lot of problems. So if you're troubleshooting with the client, you might have to say, we need to get rid of it, so let's back up all your stuff and make sure it's all backed up securely. PST files and OST files don't go away, but if you have an IMAP account that's connected to an OST file, you should be backing that up manually to a PST file just in case. Just recommended. And also you will get a conflict with 2010 that there's two versions running, and that's when it's not fun to troubleshoot. Okay, 2013 is by far my favorite. It's been out long enough that they've kind of debugged it, but of course, like all Microsoft products, it's always going to have an issue. But 2013 is my favorite. It works the best. It actually has the manual setup for Office 365 Exchange, where 2016 does not. So if I'm in a preparation for a migration, if clients have 2016, I just try to take a note that that might be a downgrade. And we'll cover that in another video, but just take a note that 16 does not have manual, and it can be buggy. You know what? This 2013 has new features. It works better with some of the new applications, the third-party add-ons. It does have the 50 gigs of email. I'm going to teach you in my videos how to optimize Outlook before using it so people have a better experience with it, and just show you some more of the decorative things. But a lot of that was covered in the regular training videos before this one. And I'm going to close with it as my favorite. 2016 is still kind of buggy. It is, and so I like to think I'll take on a job with 16. If I find there's problems and I can't get something to work, I tell the clients, we're going to downgrade you because I'll probably take care of the problems. And it does, just to be fair. I've learned a trick that you can uninstall 13, not reboot, and just go download, you can uninstall 16, you don't need to reboot, go install 13 over it. Takes about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, done. Lickety split. And that's how I like it. You don't have to reboot anymore and do all that stuff. But just make sure you got that data backed up. That's the important thing. And 2016, I end up installing it a lot. It breaks too much. And there's no manual setup. And I've already covered that. But those are the three things that bother me the most. I'm just going to run through these next pieces real quick. The Outlook versions. 2011 Mac. It's reliable, but it's not as nice as the 16 now. So if you work with the two, generally people don't want to upgrade on the Mac until they have to. And the only time they have to is generally for size, because it can hold more. And the Mac 2016 does kind of work with the interface better for Exchange in terms of the calendar and contacts and stuff. And I think a lot of people like it because it's a nice upgrade. And 2011 looks kind of old. The not common applications that I really don't deal with too much is the Mac Mail and Entourage, Thunderbird, Windows Live Mail, and Outlook Express. You know, I still take a call on it on occasion, but to be fair, I don't troubleshoot it enough to even cover it in these videos, okay? All right, gang, now to close up this last slide here for this, I'm going to talk about some Office 365 Home troubleshooting. This applies to business too, probably, but it's more about the software. So if you're not sure what version they have when you remote into a computer, you can try to figure it out in the control panel, but it's not so easy. The easiest tip for me to train you on is when you open up Outlook, there's a little light bulb at the top. That's 2016. 2013 does not have the light bulb, okay? Easiest way to figure it out. So at least when you get started with troubleshooting, And remember I told you about the snags and stuff like that? At least you know right away if something's not working, you can go and do the downgrade. And, you know, if you have to do the downgrade. I'm not saying you always have to. Always keep in mind that before you do any kind of troubleshooting with Outlook, and you might have to do any reinstalling or things like that, always make sure the client has the access to their Microsoft Store account. Make sure they have all their passwords. Make sure you took your screenshots. I'm going to show you in the next video of all their accounts, their data files, everything. Be prepared for battle, okay? If you don't have everything ready, you could probably play a game for 30 minutes of chase the password. The client doesn't know it. They don't know their iCloud password. They don't remember their Outlook.com. They don't remember anything. And if you need to tell them to go get it, they might have it. But more than likely, you're going to be playing the password reset game. Just giving you a heads up. And that is billable work. It is. Final tip on 2016. I think I just said it. You can reinstall over it. But if you're just always not sure, go ahead and uninstall one, reboot, reinstall the other one. And if it doesn't install correctly, remember your last thing to do is contact Microsoft, because it can be tricky. It can be very tricky. Now, we're going to talk about Office 365 installing real quick. And I'm going to talk lightly about purchasing. I don't sell any software, period. Okay, it's just not in my service model. Clients call me, they probably already have it. And I don't control what they buy. So I'm not the ethics police and the EULA police at all. If a client calls me and they have a company with 5 people that are using the home version that they bought at Best Buy, I troubleshoot the job and move on. I don't even tell them anything. I don't care, honestly. If you're one of those techs that's like, well, we have to get you compliant and everything like that, that's your decision, because that's how you work. Microsoft, as technicians, don't require us to, take software away from users that they allowed them to use, as far as I know. So that's just a little tip. But now if somebody asks me what should I buy, then of course I gear them to buying the right software. So an insurance company with 5 users, I would not tell the owner, yeah, just go online and just go to the Microsoft Store and buy 5 for $99 a year, and there you go, you've got everybody covered. No, I would send them to the business page to buy it, and half the time they're on exchange and they just buy it from me through my vendor. But it can be really tricky, and until Microsoft tightens how they sell that home version, you're going to see a lot of people out there buying it, a lot, and they will. It's not my job to downgrade them, though. That's what I figure. Now, another thing I get a little bit worried about is buying, if you are going to be out there buying some things for your clients, is buying from these third-party distribution centers. I'll tell you that a few of my clients have called me and they can't get their Office to activate. And I'm like, did you buy it off Amazon? And they say, yeah. And I'm like, there you go. It's probably pirated, or it's been resold or scrubbed or whatever. And Microsoft, because of their account logins, never had a problem. And when things don't work correctly, I start to get nervous. So that's when, just to let you know. And that also can happen with standalone products as well that you buy from Amazon. I've seen this before. People will go to try to activate it, and oddly enough, you have to call the activation line, but it activates, but then they might still have a problem with the Outlook. And that happened to me with a very small company of 2 people. They both bought it off Amazon, both had problems, and I'm like, I don't get it, because they sent them a disk. So something was wrong with the installer. But I just try to have the clients, if you're a break-fix technician, I have them go to the Microsoft Store, buy it there with me helping them. I install it and do all the work. And here's the thing is you might not be making money off the sale, but you're making money off the labor helping them do it. And that to me is plenty of money. I'm charging enough per hour to do that. Okay, and then just here, and the next one is a little bit of Office 365 troubleshooting. So again, I've said this twice now in this video already. If you're having a problem with the software itself, get Microsoft in to help, because they know all these back-end things. And I know people are like, oh, Lisa, that's so bad you always say that. But trust me, I've been down the road enough to know that I troubleshooted an issue one time for 4 hours. 4 hours. And I was just about to pull my hair out, and I had them do it, and they fixed it in no time. So it's hard to keep up with all this new installation and all the back-end things. And that's when I say about 30-minute mark is that I'll give it, and I tell the clients time to get Microsoft in here, and they're happy to do it if you have the expectation of, I don't mind going off the clock. If I don't mind this. Sometimes they want you on the clock, so they don't have to do it. And if the clients are doing the work and you're not billing them, well then that's fine. But if you have to do it, then you should bill. Now here's the other thing about calling Microsoft. If you're in a shop and you've got a busy bench and everything, this is sometimes helpful if you're trying to troubleshoot stuff, because Microsoft will remote in and do all the work and you can go do other stuff. And that's, I hate to say it, but it works. I've done it before. And the same for business tips. If you have a choice of setting up, let's say, the subscription model for a business, just go with 13 right away. I'm just telling you, you can always upgrade later. And the nice thing is that if you install 13, you're probably going to have less problems. I'm going to just put it out there. Then 2016, have to downgrade and troubleshoot problems. All right, that finishes up video 1 here. Next up will be video 2, and I won't be on camera for the rest of these. We're going to be doing screen shares, and like I said, I'm just going to roll with it, and we're going to have little bumps, so that's how Outlook is. So we'll see you here in video number 2. Thanks, folks.